السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والعاقبة للمتقين، ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأولين والآخرين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبعد. Praise be to Allah alone, we all praise Him and we seek His help. Whomsoever Allah guides is the truly guided one, and whomsoever Allah leads astray, no one can show him guidance. May the best peace and blessings be upon Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Brothers and sisters, welcome you all to a new edition of Ask Huda. A quick reminder of the phone numbers: area code 002-0238-555, 248 or 249, and the email address is ask@huda.tv. The first of the pending questions was from Mukhtar from Nigeria. He said, if I miss the first 2 units of the Isha prayer, how do I make up the remaining units with regards to the reading, the qada, make up the missed rak'ahs in a congregational prayer? According to the sound hadith which is collected by Imam al-Bukhari, in a part of it, this segment reads as فَمَا أَدْرَكْتُمْ فَصَلُّوا وَمَا فَاتَكُمْ فَأَتِمُّوا. This is the sound collection of Imam al-Bukhari, which means whenever you guys come to the prayer, do not rush. Whatever you catch with the Imam, join him in. If you catch him while he is standing or ruku or in sujood, do not wait. Join the jama'ah. And وَمَا فَاتَكُمْ فَأَتِمُّوا. Then after the Imam makes taslim and finishes his salah, whatever you missed, فَأَتِمُّوا literally means complete it. The word فَقْدُ means make it up. So when I say complete it, it means when I started my prayer with the Imam, that was my very first rak'ah, regardless whether it was the first or the second or the third for the Imam. It is my very first rak'ah. So I get to read the surah after Al-Fatiha, even if the Imam was silent, because it's my first rak'ah, despite the fact that it is the Imam's third or fourth rak'ah. Accordingly, after the Imam finishes, I'm just completing my prayer, I'm not making up. This is the more right view in this regard of 2 very common opinions. Wallahu ta'ala a'la a'la. Second question from Khadija from the KSA. When does jihad become fardu ayn? We have 2 terms, actually 3: jihad and fard and ayn. The word jihad literally means to struggle against, show resistance. في سورة العنكبوت, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَمَعَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. As for those who struggle for our sake, we shall guide them to our straight path. And indeed, Allah will be with help and support and care with the good doers. وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَمَعَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. So jihad is different types. There is jihad against oneself, against the inner desire, against Satan, against the enemies, against the hypocrites, and so on. There is a struggle in order to do the good deed, and a struggle in order to avoid the bad deed. These are all different forms of jihad. The sister now is talking about a jihad which is fardu ayn. Fard means it is mandatory, it is an obligation, it is mandated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The fard also consists of 2 types. There is fardu kifaya and fardu ayn. Fardu kifaya literally means a communal obligation or collective obligation. Both terms are okay. This is when this mandate or obligation is due on the entire ummah. If some of the ummah or the Muslim community or a group who live in somewhere fulfill it, then the rest will not be blameworthy. Let me give an example. Salatul Janazah, the funeral prayer, is fardu kifaya. We have to offer the funeral prayer for whoever dies among the Muslims. What if nobody offers the funeral prayer and we have a Muslim deceased and nobody offered? Then everybody in the city or in the town or in the village who is aware of that and did not do it is blameworthy and is committing a sin, because they missed a wajib, an obligation, a fard. But If a group of people offered it, or at least one, then the blame is waived. A group of the Muslim community offered it, it would be sufficient, as long as they fulfill the obligation. When we say fardu ayn, it becomes an obligation on every individual. I don't really care whether others did it or not. I myself have to take part of it, have to do my part, have to be involved in it, have to exert my effort. So al-jihad becomes the duty of every single Muslim, whether male or female, young or old, free or not. For every person who is capable to defend his religion, his country, his people, his family, his wealth, his honor, whenever the enemies of Islam attack or invade a Muslim country or society or village or city, then it becomes the obligation of every member of this community to go out to fight against the enemies by every possible means. To the extent that the scholars say, a woman does not have to seek a permission from her husband to fight against the enemies because they already invaded us. They already attacked us. The son does not have to say, Dad, would you permit me to fight against the enemies? It is an individual obligation. That is the meaning of fardu al-ayn. Fardu al-kifaya is when the imam forms an official army and says that there is a threat somewhere and we would like to have young, strong, physically fit people to come and join us in order to defend our borders or in order to fight against this country because they are threatening us. So when they have the quota or the number which they are asking for, then it's not, there is no blame on the remaining people who did not join the imam. Similar to, for instance, in many occasions, like the Battle of Badr, the Prophet ﷺ did not go out in order to fight. So going out with the Prophet ﷺ was optional. Versus in some other battles, in the Battle of Tabuk, he ordered all the men who are capable to join the Prophet ﷺ. That's why those who left behind were blameworthy. هذا والله تعالى أعلى وأعلم. Abu Fayyad, then I will inshallah resume answering the pending questions. Abu Fayyad from Qatar.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sheikh, I have two questions.
Go ahead, please.
The first question is regarding Qasr prayer.
Yeah.
The clarification requested is in India there are small villages. From one village to another village, it is let us say 25 to 30 kilometers. When we are going from one village to another village of 25 to 30 kilometers, it is required to offer Qasr prayer, or there is a limitation for the distance to travel and the number of days to stay that one.
And between the villages, Brother Fayyad, between the villages, is there like an open area, space, a desert, or they are connected to each other? The buildings are connected to each other, because 25 to 30 kilometers is not a big deal.
Yeah, but in India, 25 to 30 kilometers, in between there will be only fields will be there.
Fields, okay.
No houses, no houses, only road and field.
Okay.
The second question is,
go ahead, Fayyad. Yeah, I hear you.
The second question is regarding the witr prayer. In the witr prayer, Dua Khunut, it is a must or it is optional? Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you, Abu Fayyad. Jazakallah khair. May I request the brothers who are calling right now to just give me a few minutes to tackle the pending questions. I know that you've been waiting on the line, but I would like to answer some of these questions before I start taking new phone calls. Thank you so much. Sorry, Abdul Wajid, for that. Abra from the KSA, when you enter the masjid and begin to pray 2 rak'ahs, the greeting of the masjid or tahiyatul masjid, and then the imam commences the iqamah, should I break out my prayer by making taslim, or should I complete it? Somebody began the nafli prayer, whether is it the greeting of the masjid or the emphatic sunnah before the prayer, okay, and the iqamah is called, and the imam is ready to say Allahu Akbar. What are we supposed to do? Well, there is a sound hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَا أُقِيمَتِ الصَّلَاةِ فَلَا صَلَاةَ إِلَّا الْمَكْتُوبَةِ. Once the iqamah is being called, the call to establish the prayer is called, then there should not be any other prayer meanwhile. The scholars said it means one of two things. Either that you should not initiate a nafla prayer at the same time once you hear the iqamah, and the other meaning, which is a possibility, that even if you initiated the nafla prayer and the iqamah is called, you should cease it, because it will be invalid to pray while the fard prayer is established. There is a very interesting opinion which says, we look into the prayer itself. How far did you reach? If the person who started the nafla prayer is still in the first rak'ah, then you must exit from the nafla prayer in order to join the jama'ah, because of the great reward of attending the jama'ah from the very first rak'ah, especially making takbiratul ihram, the beginning takbir behind the imam after he makes his own takbir. So this is a priority, and according to the hadith, it's very obvious that you should leave the nafl and enter the fard congregation. But if somebody started his nafl prayer and is already approaching its end, finished the ruku' of the second rak'ah, and by the time the muazzin calls the iqamah, he can get it done, he can finish the nafl. So in this case, we say go ahead and finish the nafl prayer, because it won't affect the fard. That if he was closer to finish, and he should make it lighter than if he were praying a regular prayer. هذا والله تعالى أعلى وأعلم. The second segment of the question, which is how to leave the prayer in case that you decided, well, I'm still in the beginning, the first rak'ah, it will take me some time, the imam may pray a whole rak'ah or finish the qira'ah before I finished. So say you must exit the nafla prayer. How to exit this nafla prayer? Similar to when one remembers that he did not have wudu, or he voids his or her wudu in the prayer itself, then you must exit. You must leave the prayer. Am I supposed to say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah before leaving the prayer? No, you're not. Why not? Because at-taslim is the last duty of a complete prayer. You did not complete the prayer. That will not count as a prayer. So you just withdraw without making taslim, and that is a more right view. Wallahu ta'ala a'la wa a'lam. Sayyid from Nigeria, he said, inshallah, he prays the duha, the witr prayer, the emphatic and the non-emphatic sunan. So he's taking care of all the nawafil, mashallah, emphatic and non-emphatic. And he was inquiring about the tasabih prayer. The tasabih prayer, as you were told, the person or the persons who told you that the tasabih prayer isn't a sound prayer and its hadith is weak, they are so right. Some even went ahead and said that its hadith is fabricated, and we do not rely on weak hadith in making up a new act of worship, unless if it is supported by any other means of documents. But there is no such thing. There is only one single hadith, and this prayer has very specific specifications or style, that you have to recite certain recitations and make certain number of tasbih in ruku' and upon rising up from ruku', etc. It should be very common and known to the companions, and since it's odd, it would be sufficient to offer the nafla prayer and the tahajjud, and do not resort to such weak prayer. Wallahu ta'ala a'la wa a'lam. Radwan from the KSA had a question about, when fasting, I get a lot of spit in my mouth, and I'm not always in a place where I can spit it out. You don't have to spit it out. What's restricted is to introduce something to your mouth. But the saliva which is running and generated due to the execution buds in your mouth, it's not something that you are doing on your own. It will be just burdening yourself, and it will be